Hi, my name is Kazeem, if I'm correct. It's been a while. I think last episode was dropped in December, so I'm recording this episode in January. So let's say over 2 weeks. And I just want to say Happy New Year and welcome to my rant. Yeah, welcome back. Hope you had a fantastic and restful holidays. I didn't. Hope you had some time to take a break off work. And if I listen to this episode and you probably weren't working a 9 to 5, well, this episode is for you, dude. Or if you intend to work a 9 to 5, like, let me not put it, because some people don't choose to want to work 9 to 5. Well, I will still even get back to that aspect of working 9 to 5, because I was still having a conversation with my sister today, and she's like, she never wants to do a 9 to 5. It's so stressful. Truthfully speaking, it is stressful. But let's just have a bit of discussion on how to get your first job. Well, the tricky part of this whole episode is I've worked in, say, 3-4 organizations within 5. Sorry, I'm terrible when it comes to math sometimes. So from 2017 to 2023, so that's like 5 years or 6 years, if I'm correct, or 7 technically. Well, let's just say 5. Let me just round it up for 5 years, reasonably. So my I always consider my tech career to be 5 years. Then I've worked for 6.5 years, because originally I was in tech all this while, but I don't consider that part as tech, because I was just messing around. So I just clean out that part in my CV technically. Okay, so I've worked in different organizations and I've gotten my jobs differently. So I think that's where I'm drawing my conclusion from this episode. So I've gotten jobs based on relationships. I've gotten jobs based on they needed me. Put it that way. And I needed them. So it was still relationship though, but it was just enthusiasm. I'll probably have to cut that part of the episode. Sorry about that. But it's probably due to my passion. I think I should use the word passion. Terrible with English. I should use the word passion. So it's probably due to my passion and the zeal that the CEO at that time saw in me. And I also gotten a job just based on how, I don't even know. My current job till now, I still joke about this with my HR, that I don't remember when I applied for this job. Till now, I really can't. Like, I just can't put it in my head and figure out where I applied for this job. So, yeah, like, it's really been an interesting, should I say, 5 years of my life, and I've always had fun. So I just want to share how to get your first job, if you are currently looking for a job, and if you have gotten a job already. So if you want to move on to a new part of your career, how to go about that. Okay, so quick backstory. I started working when I was 17. I'm 22 now. I'll be 23 in October. Yeah, I'll be 23 in October. That's scary. And I feel somehow whenever I talk about my age to myself, not to any other person, I always feel like I'm too old. But whenever I talk to other people, everybody makes me feel like I'm very young. I don't even know how to go about that. But okay, yeah. So I started working when I was 27. I'm sorry, when I was 17. Where did I say 27? I started working when I was 17, and how I got my first job. Okay, it was a bit of an interesting thing. So we moved into a new building 2 years before that. So that building had like an empty apartment, and there was this company. Now my boss and a very good friend of my mentor also, he started the company, was building things out, and I knew he calls him his brother or uncle, but I knew let me just say his uncle technically, but he's not really like blood uncle terrible. But I knew his uncle because his uncle's mother taught me when we're still in like Sunday school class in children's church. He also taught me when I was in teenagers church. So that's his uncle I'm talking about. So he actually came to my church one day and he was like, okay, you should be interested in this, that somebody's starting a computer school and maybe you should come around. And they had a program on the 29th of May. I can't forget this ever. So the name of the program was called Digitocracy. And it was basically how we are still, the whole essence of the program back then was, I think, based on the fact that Nigeria is still being colonized even in the digital world, whereby you have some firewalls that you can't access some site just because you're Nigerians and blah blah blah. And that was like the whole backbone of the whole event that day, and that was the day they launched the company, interestingly. So I went for the program, I went with my sister, and something happened. Something happened. So it was so they asked the question, and my sister was the youngest person in that place. After her was me, right? And I asked the question, and really no one answered, or no one knew that. I really don't understand what happened, but I knew I just raised up my hand and they gave me the mic and I spoke for 10 minutes. Sorry about that. Well, I spoke for 10 minutes and it was something in me just switched. It's like that stuff has always been in my head, but it was like I just had the opportunity to just speak, and I spoke, and I was amazed by myself after I spoke. That's just the simple truth. What I said was meaningful. I can't remember jack of what I said right now, but I knew what I said was meaningful. Everybody were like impressed. After everybody clapped, I was feeling good, like Starboy gets. I was feeling good about myself. Then I spoke to the founder back then. I was like, oh, I'm really interested. I want to really learn how to build websites, right? And I don't mind interning here or volunteering here to just learn that skill. And it was like, it's fine. I should come around and blah, blah, blah. And that's how my first part of my career started. Bam. So I got the job technically. I was a volunteer, then later became an intern. I did that for about 2 years, so from 2017 down to 2019. I think I left there February 2019. Then I got my second job. So now the second job is a bit of an interesting, well, not too interesting of the story. I went for a program with a friend. A friend invited me to a program. Back then I was the personal assistant to one of my friends also. He was an ambassador for a company. A bit of roundabout, right? I was an ambassador for a company, and I went with him doing my PA work as usual. And there was someone asked a question in the gathering also. I guess questions are always been my thing. And the person put it to me because someone first of all said I was acting rude. I was shocked and the interesting thing, I smiled because I didn't know how to answer. And some of my friends around with me too also smiled because they knew that it was probably wrong, or the person was just getting a different vibe. So I smiled. I was like, oh, I'm sorry about that. I left that. Then another person now picked on me to answer the question next time. And I just smiled because it was so easy. Something I do almost every day. And I answered, and again, wow, the crowd. Also, so my potential boss was in the meeting also. So he asked me a different question and I answered her. After the program, we both spoke, we talked. He gave me his card, or we kept in contact actually. That was way back in 2018. So we kept in contact, we were talking. And when I was already getting like, okay, I wanted to move on to the next part of my career, I spoke to him, okay, does he have a role available? Because I was actually asking other people. I didn't want to use that relationship. I didn't want to leverage on that relationship to get a job at that point. But sorry about that. I just needed somewhere to improve my career and intern and get better. So I asked him, he asked me to send my CV over. I went for the interview, I passed, and I got my second job. Now to my third job, which I don't know how I got that job. I just know that somehow my CV got to my HR table. Then I asked me for an interview because I knew I was applying to a lot of companies, but I couldn't remember the exact companies, right? So my CV got to my HR's table, and I was asked to come for the interview. The interview was even a very interesting experience, a scary one at the moment too. Also, so I passed by God's grace, and I got the job, and that was how I got like those jobs. Although I worked in some other places, but I don't really want to like bring those ones up because they weren't like I didn't work there for more than a year. It was, some of them were like just 6 months, some of them were just like a side thing. So but those were like 3 major ways I got my job, right? Luck, or whatever it's called, relationships, and experience. So those are like 3 major ways. So, and I think this is very important for anyone most likely leaving university or just trying to start out their career, is to understand that there's a place of relationship. So you have to put this in the back of your mind. Whenever you want to get a job, you should always try to put yourself out there, where you're good at. So I think I was reading a book that said you should not you should try to always improve on your strengths than your weaknesses. That was like a bit of twist psychology, because we all understand the mentality of like, okay, try to get better, like not improve your weaknesses, but let your weaknesses not be your weaknesses. So try to make them better at your weaknesses. But that was a bit of like a shift of paradigm for me personally. Was that I just focused on my strengths, and that's one thing I always advise people to do. What are you really good at? So just try to think about it, narrow it down to that one thing you're very good at, and just double down on it. Get so good at it that you probably even be the best at your field or best among your peers at it. And I think I did that from 2019 to 2021. So back then, in tech, for people listening to this that might probably not be into tech, so there's a language called C#. It's created by Microsoft. It also has a framework called .NET. So really, you just hear people calling themselves .NET developers. So when I got to my job at Tech Service, to be precise, in 2019, I was asked if I was interested in to learn .NET, and I was like, yes, because I really didn't know that much in tech. So I was just like, okay, if these guys are going to invest in me, so who am I to say no? So I jumped on the opportunity. I started learning tech, and it seemed as if I was wasting my time in the moment. Why? Because almost everybody around me were probably learning React, learning something interesting, fun. Because why I would say those things were interesting, because you could see the impact in real time. So React is a front-end library whereby everything I'm building is front-end. So you're seeing it. Me, .NET, sometimes everything I'm writing just in back-end, maybe just authentication I'm working on and stuff like that. Or React, you could find jobs easily. You can find jobs at startups that are using React. While for .NET, you most likely have to work in enterprise companies or banks or financial system, things like that. So it was like the kind of person I was the kind of person that would love to wear knickers to work. I wouldn't want to, or joggers. It's United States. I wouldn't want to wear suit and tie. I don't even own a suit, like personally my own. Okay, my mentor gave me a suit, but technically I already zeroed it that I've given it to someone else because he didn't even size me in the first place. But I really don't own a suit, and I'm not really like a big fan of dressing all corporate. So, and if you would want to work in .NET back then, although the perspective is shifting more now, is that you would most likely be in those areas where you had to dress corporate. So it was like I was choosing the wrong career choice in that moment. But one thing I noticed was, okay, I was really good at this thing, so I just doubled down on that and got better. So I would say that helps. Like, I'm still enjoying the benefit of those 2 years I zeroed my mind and focused on just one particular skill. So, and that's the same thing. Even if you're learning a skill, mostly in tech, most people get easily distracted. Just try to focus on that one thing, get really good at it, sorry to use this, stupidly good at it, and it'll be easier for you to leverage those skills and those knowledge in your next place of work, or even getting that job in you're talking about. So that was one thing I used. Also, now there's, in as much as I'm saying you should double down on one single thing, doesn't necessarily mean you should zero your mind on any other thing. So one interesting thing happened to me at my current place of work when I was doing the interview. So on my CV back then, I always added XD, proficiency in XD. That's Adobe XD. I don't think I added Figma, but I added XD. And reason being that because my previous boss was a designer and an architect. So, but most times if you want to work with him, he always asks you like, is this design good enough to you? And at some point he had to give me an XD course to watch, and I learned how to use it. Even though I still even use it. But that, I just thought it was a skill I should really add to my CV. And one interesting thing that happened, so my current CTO now saw XD on my CV, and when everybody were doing the .NET stacks they gave to them, he just said, okay, you know how to do XD, right? He gave me to work on a design, and I did a bit. I think I can't really remember how everything went on that part, but I know I did a bit, and I felt that gave me an edge over every other person there, which is a bit of a twist if you think about it, right? Because I came there for a .NET job, but I was asked to do something in XT, and that was because I added that to my CV. So another tip, please don't add anything you're not good at on your CV. Okay, before I go on to talk about the other things, let me just quickly go over what I listed out so far. Leverage on relationship and experiences. Focus on, have like a singular focus on your particular area of strength, and also don't add things you're not very good at on your CV. That's one thing. So let's just take a break here, and when we come back, we would go over the other few points I have on trying to get your first job in tech. Your first job, not in tech. Yeah, welcome back. So we went over three steps you can take to getting your first job. So another step is to really, and I think applying for jobs is really somewhat of a numbers game, right? If you think about it, if you apply to just only one company, what if that company tells you, we're sorry? This has happened to me quite a number of times. So I think there was a time I applied to a company and I had an interview. I passed the first stage of the interview. There's a second stage I had to do another task. I passed that one. There was a stage I had to like the stage where you have an interview with the HR. I passed that. I had an interview with the CTO. I passed that. I had an interview with the group head or something. There was at some point I had to have an interview with the head of the conglomerate or whatever. Like they have many companies under them, but the head of all of them, I had to have a company with him. I'm like, the interesting thing is, it got to that even level, and I see, like, I was passing all those levels, and I didn't even have the company with the head, and they sent me, oh, we're sorry, blah blah blah, or they didn't even get back to me. I think that was what happened. And I saw my got into the interview. that I was really embarrassed. So one interesting thing happened one day. I had an interview and I was at work. So I was supposed to have an interview by say 7 or 8, and I was still at work like 6 o'clock. So I was rushing. When I go home like this, the interview started. My network started acting up. So all those things just got me very imbalanced. And interview, they just asked me, what is a prime number? And I should just write a code to determine what is a prime number. To my amazement, I froze. Like it's just interesting things like that happen. So I always think of interviews to be a numbers game. Yeah, always going prepared, but just put it in the back of your mind as getting a job is a numbers game. So apply to as many companies as possible, but have few companies in mind that you really want to get to. So when you are applying to those particular companies, you can curate yourself properly to get in those companies. So another thing I would advise you to do is to put in the back of your mind that it's just an interview. It doesn't determine your self-worth, because I've seen this happen a lot of times when people apply to a lot of companies and at some point they're just trying to say, okay, am I really good at this thing? This happens a lot. I know of a friend that is working, I don't know the name of the company he's working at now, but he applied to over 200 companies and he got, so we are sorry, blah blah blah. So it's just only one company that gave him an offer, and he jumped on that offer. But he also mentioned that while he was going through those processes, he had times when he almost gave up, times he felt like he wasn't good enough, and this thing happens to everybody. In fact, the worst one is probably imposter syndrome. I think there's an episode about imposter syndrome on this podcast, so you can just check in your feed and just listen to that. I spoke extensively about imposter syndrome. So, but you just don't determine the fact that you are applying to jobs to your self-worth, because most times you get experiences from these interviews that they really hurt your feelings, but you just have to move on because it's just an interview. Just put it back in your mind, it's just an interview. It doesn't determine really anything at the end. At some point, some people go through interviews and everything just goes so smooth and you still don't get the job. And sometimes you even go through interviews and some things go rocky, like mine. It went rocky, my current job. In fact, at some point, my CEO thought I was lying. It's a lot of crazy things, right? So, if I had like given up, at some point, really, I gave up. I should be sincere. I gave up at some point. In fact, when it got to the part where my CEO was like, I was lying about my educational level or something like that. In my mind, I was like, that's the end. Let me just start applying to another company. You understand? But these things, you have to just put in the back of your mind that some of these things are normal. These things happen. Then also, please just have as many relationships as you possibly can. So there's something that happens in tech. There are things called meetups where you go out for events and you meet a lot of people. Those people you meet at those events, keep in contact with them, get their numbers, even if it's just viewing their status and commenting once in a while. Let them put it in the back of your mind that you exist, because most jobs are not really being posted on LinkedIn or Indeed or wherever you see. Most jobs are based on referrals. Like even still today, a friend of mine messaged me like, "Oh guy, I need blah 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 developers," and I'm like, okay, I'll message my guys that I know, let them send that CV, and I forward it. So these things happen a lot, in fact. But the simple truth is, as much as you're trying to apply for jobs online, just leverage on relationships. Tell people, guy, I'm looking for a job. Don't feel shy. It's not war. Nobody's going to look at you as you're looking for a job that's terrible or something. Everybody looks for a job, right? So you don't think of it as some sort of way that you should feel shy about in any way. So just put that in the back of your mind, really. And I think I want to end on this note. But really, if you are searching for jobs or you have job opportunities in your company, please reach out to me. I know a lot of people that are looking for jobs. And me, myself, I'm looking for a job. If you have a job for me, if you want to pay me like, say, 10 million per month, I'll consider your offer. I'll consider your offer. But without more ado, wait, I'm saying nonsense today. Well, it's still around, so you permit me. I just want to say, going forward, please like, share, subscribe to this podcast. I think over the course of 2 years, we haven't had that many listeners, although we're closer to the 1,000 mark of listeners. But please share. I really appreciate your effort in sharing this podcast, and if you are even doing that, thank you so much. I love you, even if I've not seen you. For some of you, I love you. It's really emotional for me because I really enjoy what I do here, and I really enjoy and appreciate your encouragement. I just want to tell you, have an awesome year ahead. Bye.